In my whole life, I have known no wise people who didn't read all the time. None. Zero. You know, that powerful observation comes from the late Charlie Munger, who was basically the Yoda of the finance world. And honestly, it sets up our mission today perfectly. Because, let's be real, most business books are, frankly, about 300 pages of pure fluff wrapped around just one singular, actually interesting idea. So we are skipping the fluff today. We're going to extract the absolute best, highly actionable ideas from 15 world-class business books to give you exactly what you need.
Welcome to This Explainer. I am so excited you're joining us today, because today we are laying down the ultimate blueprint for success. Look, whether you're building a career, a weekend side hustle, or a massive empire, you need a solid foundation. And rather than forcing you to sit down and read thousands and thousands of pages, we've carefully curated these distilled lessons to help you build that foundation incredibly fast.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make sure you don't feel like you're drinking from a fire hose of random information, we're logically categorizing these books into 4 distinct spheres: mastering mindset, optimizing health, winning wealth, and business skills.
This framework is absolutely crucial. Think of it as a building block progression. We have to start with internal grounding, your mindset. Then we move to your health, ensuring you actually have the longevity and quality of life to enjoy your success. Once that internal stuff is rock solid, then we expand outward to the external, mastering your money, and finally applying hardcore business skills. You just can't skip steps here if you want the whole structure to hold up.
Right, so that brings us straight to Sphere 1, mastering mindset. This is the absolute internal grounding you must have before you can even think about running an empire.
And to build that mindset, we really need to start with primary sources instead of just modern summaries. Check out this incredible insight from Seneca, one of the original grandfathers of Stoicism. From his Letters from a Stoic, he says, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Isn't that wild? Reading original primary texts exactly like this is hands down the best way to build your own foundational knowledge base right from the ground floor up.
Next up is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Now, while the book outlines 4 really simple rules, the absolute most crucial one is this: be impeccable with your word. And listen, this doesn't just mean keeping your promises to other people. It's really about keeping promises to yourself, because breaking a promise to yourself secretly and completely destroys your self-esteem. I mean, self-esteem is essentially just the reputation you hold with yourself, right?
Moving on, our next insight on self-mastery comes from clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. The specific rule we want to focus on for daily improvement is crystal clear. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. By isolating your focus entirely onto your own incremental daily progress, you tune out all that toxic external noise and create a highly sustainable path for your own personal growth.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast presented in Carol Dweck's groundbreaking book, Mindset. A fixed mindset convinces you that your traits are literally set in stone. You catch yourself saying things like, "I'm just bad at this." But a growth mindset changes the game entirely with just one simple magic word: yet. I want to challenge you right now to stop saying, "I suck at this," and start adding the word "yet" to the end of that sentence. It's a total game changer. It signals that with enough effort, practically anything can be mastered.
All right, let's shift gears entirely and move into Sphere 2, optimizing health.
Look, here is the harsh truth. Building a massive $100 million empire or accumulating serious wealth is completely useless if you end up too miserable or too sick to get out of bed and actually enjoy it. Peter Attia's book Outlive is literally the only book you need here because it perfectly outlines the prerequisites for enjoying the wealth we're about to build. Firing through his core categories, we've got exercise, sleep, nutrition, mental health, and relationships. You absolutely have to start doing the work in these 5 specific areas right now to guarantee a long, healthy, and frankly, awesome life.
And that naturally brings us into Sphere 3, winning wealth.
So, money causes massive stress for a lot of people, mostly because it's the subject we're often taught the absolute least about. Let's map out the wealth journey here, dividing it into basic and advanced knowledge. You really want to start with the basics. Books like Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich, so you can get immediate action and automation in your personal finances today. Once that foundation is fully automated, then and only then do you graduate to the complex, advanced topics.
Diving straight into the psychology of money, Morgan Housel provides this brilliant little gem. Saving is the gap between your ego and your income. Man, that hits hard. To win the money game, you absolutely must break your unhelpful baggage around wealth. Oh, and remember this golden rule.
Never, ever take financial advice from people's overall position you wouldn't actually want to trade places with.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. To reach that advanced level of wealth, you have to adopt the mindset of the incredibly wealthy. Felix Dennis, who was a billionaire publisher with a notoriously wild life, wrote the highly entertaining book, How to Get Rich. He states flat out, anyone not busy learning is busy dying. His core lesson here is that relentless, burning curiosity is what wards off mental stagnation and leads directly into the valley of serious, life-changing wealth.
Now, as we move into advanced wealth, I have a very direct question for you. Why care about taxes and economics? Be honest, are you actively avoiding these dry subjects? Because if you're intentionally ignoring them just because they seem dense or convoluted, you are putting yourself at a severe disadvantage compared to the people who don't. Here is the blunt reality, pulling directly from Tax-Free Wealth and Economics in One Lesson. Ready? Taxes are your biggest lifetime expense, period. It is not about how much you make, it is all about how much you keep. So, to put it kindly, suck it up, Buttercup. Accounting and economics are literally the language of business, and learning them is the mandatory price of admission if you want high-level wealth. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle. We arrive at Sphere 4, business skills. Every solid business rests on a three-legged stool: finance, operations, and marketing. We just covered finance, so for operations, Gino Wickman's book Traction introduces the Entrepreneur Operating System, or EOS. This is a brilliant out-of-the-box framework that provides desperately needed structure. For any aspiring entrepreneurs out there, take warning. Without a structured system in place, the sheer lack of operational clarity will eventually cause your business to completely collapse at its very first major inflection point. Sticking with operations, we have The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, which introduces something called the theory of constraints. Think of it like this. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right? Well, every process has a single bottleneck, and the total system can only improve when you identify and remove that specific constraint. Honestly, this is arguably the single most valuable diagnostic skill any entrepreneur could ever possess. Then, we have the marketing leg of the stool. When you take Alex Hormozi's incredibly modern tactics on leads and offers, and you combine them with the legendary advertising wisdom of David Ogilvy, you unlock the absolute magic of copywriting. Using the written word to influence perception, conjure desire, and drive action is just the ultimate skill. Finding and converting customers with the right words is essentially building yourself a money-printing machine.
Let's move to and see how this all builds to one final unifying thought. Knowledge is potential power. It's useless if we don't apply it. Reading the insights from these 15 incredible sources is just the starting line. The actual magic, the real empire building, only happens through the relentless, day in and day out application of what you've just learned. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative final thought to carry with you today. Which of the four spheres, mindset, health, wealth, or skills, are you going to focus on first? The choice is yours. Pick your pillar, grab the knowledge, and let's get to work.